heard of
Sausage?
the UFC fighter.
The sausage?
Sausage.
Thank you so much for coming back to the Siri Yanks channel. As always, I'm so appreciative that you decided to spend a little bit of your day with me. As the title of this video says, it's pretty self-explanatory. It's where is David De Gea going to end up at, and the 5 most likely landing spots that I think he's going to end up at. Now, please, please, please give this video a like, and more importantly, leave your comment below. I love talking footy with anybody from any country, so please, 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 whether you agree or disagree, comment below and let me know so we can get some conversation going. Now, that said, David De Gea, no introduction needed, right? He's still only 32 years old. And before you say anything, yeah, I thought he was older too. But he's the Manchester United legend. I mean, last year the Premier League's Golden Glove winner, although pretty controversial winner. I mean, statistically he won it, yes, but was he the best goalkeeper? I think we all know the answer to that. Shaky at best. But that said, let's get into the 5 most likely landing spots for David De Gea next season. Let's go. Now for my number 5 most likely landing spot, I'm thinking a little bit outside the box. Now, could it be for selfish reasons? Maybe. But what better way to spend your latter years as a starting goalkeeper in a top 5 league than living on the Canary Islands? And of course, I'm speaking about UD Palmas. They just recently got promoted back to La Liga by finishing second and getting an automatic promotion spot. And there's a lot worse places to be at in the world, right? So they have 2 decent keepers on the club currently, but neither one of these keepers offer what De Gea does. And do they value them as a La Liga starting keeper next year? I don't know. But I think De Gea fits a need that this team is going to have moving forward if they want to compete and stay in La Liga. And if the price is right, there's just no way Palmas can say no to this. Obviously, this is more going to be, would De Gea even want this? I don't know, but from a fit standpoint, it makes sense to me. But from a De Gea standpoint, I don't know. But either way, I think it's an interesting pick that probably not a lot of people is going to have. It's under the radar. And if you do remember, I actually had Cavani and Ochoa as possible targets for Salernitana last year. So before you call me crazy, remember, I have a decent history at picking these things. So we'll move on. At number 4 on my list, I've got a team in England that possibly has the biggest need for a goalkeeper of any Premier League team, and that's Luton Town. Last year's starter, Ethan Horvath, was actually a loaned player, so he didn't even belong to Luton. He's a Nottingham Forest player. Does Luton value Horvath at the Premier League level? I have no idea. But Nottingham Forest themselves actually has a need for a goalkeeper, and I don't know if they're just going to absolutely let Horvath go to Luton, even if Luton would want Horvath. I think the biggest issue here is, could Luton Town afford David De Gea? And I don't know, because of all the renovations they're clearly going to have to make to that stadium. But how cool would it be to see David De Gea in a Luton Town kit? I mean, that'd be wild to me. I actually think this is a very, very, very realistic option, which is why I have it at number 4. There's a need. De Gea needs a team. Why not? Moving on to number 3. And at this point, these Saudi League predictions are no longer crazy. And at number 3, the Saudi League strikes again. And that's Al Nasir. And I cannot pretend that I know a lot about this team other than Ronaldo. But I do know that their most talented goalkeeper on paper last year was Rossi, who returned to his Argentine parent club because he was only a loan player. And just looking at a list of their keepers, I could be wrong, but it definitely looks like they need a goalkeeper. Money clearly is not going to be an issue with any Saudi club, apparently. But the biggest question here would be, would CR7 approve of this? They are former teammates. I don't really know what the relationship was while they were teammates, but if they had a good relationship, clearly I think Ronaldo would see this and would maybe want this. I don't know. I assume he's going to approve every player that comes in. And maybe the bigger question would be, would De Gea want to live in Saudi Arabia? I have no idea. He's going into his age 33 season. He could potentially, obviously, play for a competing Champions League club or Europa League club. There's a lot of questions here, but it's a very, very good possibility. And with the money that the Saudi League can throw around, I think that just, raises the possibility of this happening even more. But I think it'd be an interesting fit, and one that makes sense in more ways than one, unless he and Ronaldo have a very rocky relationship. But again, former teammates, rivals in the national team, hey, why not? So at number 2 on my list, I've got a team that would be my personal favorite for him to go to, because I do want to see De Gea in La Liga next year, and that's Celta de Vigo. I know they already have the Argentine keeper, I can't think of his name right now, but I do think that they are a club that could compete for a top table finish in La Liga next year if they make some smart moves. An interesting fact about them is, of the non-relegated teams in La Liga last year, only 3 clubs gave up more goals, and two of those clubs were by 2 goals or less. So that should tell you a little bit about their weakness in defense and goalkeeper. I do think De Gea would fit in to a somewhat veteran team, and again, I think they're a team that could surprise a lot of people next year if they get the Golden Glove winner to come there. What's your thoughts on this? I actually think this is probably his best landing spot. But if you're a fan of this club or La Liga in general, tell me what you think if this would be the best spot for him. And the number 1 most likely landing spot next season for David De Gea is probably the least dramatic number 1 that I've ever had on this channel, and that's Manchester United. I know he's not on the retainment list, but that doesn't mean the Man U legend still couldn't make a return on a short-term deal or if the money's right. I think this is more of a who's available for Man United outside of De Gea rather than if De Gea is willing to accept a deal. Again, maybe not the most entertaining pick here at number 1, but legends and clubs usually don't move on without a whimper, without at least one side trying to get something done. Again, I think this is going to depend most likely on who's available for Manchester United to bring in over De Gea if they choose to just completely move on. So that's my number 1. So there is my list. Please, please, please get some conversation below about where you think he's going to go. Who was I crazy for including on this list? Who did you actually think was smart for putting on this list? I'd love to know below. As always, subscribe. Please, please, please subscribe. We need to get these subscribers up. And above all, have a great and safe day.